Um, we're gonna talk about mental health. I know, coming from me, crazy. And state of Texas being the worst state to deal with mental health. They are last. Very, 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 very last. They absolutely suck at handling mental health. Mostly because you deal with a lot of narcissists in the field. Um, and people unable to or unwilling because of their own grandiosity to actually do their jobs. Dealing with mental health and like going through cycles through being hospitalized and then released, I call it more like catch and release. Um, they don't do treatment well. The entire process is a fucked up mess. So, it's been years that these assholes have been doing this to me. And I worked really, 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 really hard. I hit the ground running to get well and get balance back out the door as fast as I could. So I ended up in the hospital in 2017 when all this blew up. I was in Arlington for what, about a week or so. Within 24 hours, because of the tactics and the way things have been going, I turned around and went to the police. I brought my laptop with me. I went to turn in my laptop and turn over any evidence that for any accusations that were flying around me um, to get it over with. So I did this. Um, expecting to be held, possibly transferred. I went ahead and I took my medication ahead of time so at least I could sleep in the cell. Um, because I took my medication, the police did not just let me leave. So they wanted me to find out if somebody, they were like, what? Okay. And B, I tried to, they asked me to ask somebody if they could pick me up so I didn't have to drive because I would be considered intoxicated. You know, honestly, they could have dropped me off themselves and I could have come back and got my fucking car and stuff. And then they ended up calling my father, who's not really my father. And he insisted that they call MHMR because I was unstable. This is also the same man that lied to me on the phone and said, I don't have a key to your apartment when I lost my key to my apartment, who had a key to my apartment but refused to admit he had a key to my apartment. So, what the fuck ever. Like, can ya just stop with the gaslighting? Especially when it's obvious like that. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, so I end up in Mayhill. So I go to Mayhill. And I'm mad. I'm mad. I'm really fucking mad. I'm really upset. And I'm really fucking tired. I sleep in the chair. Being able to check in process is hours. Check-in process in the hospital is actually really, really long, and most of it you spend waiting. So I slept in a chair, like curled up between two chairs, like awkward. Anyways, finally they finished it, and about 5 o'clock in the morning I got to bed. So I'm really upset. We have our group first thing in the morning. I'm not all the details. I did, like, because I tried to make it humorous for my stay there, I started writing a short story while I was there about being on the alien island. Funny. Like, I crash landed on Alien Island where the locals were strange. This was encouraged because of one of the patients. They were walking, and one of the patients slithered across my doorway. Like, he did this little snake thing across the doorway. Anyways, so not gonna go into that. So we're in group 1. I'm upset. I'm angry. I'm having a mixture of emotions. I'm mad. I'm frustrated. And I'm like thinking about like why I'm there, what happened, and I'm thinking about what happened, what put me here, like what were my actions that put me here, and why I'm back in the hospital in under 48 hours. So I'm being told I have by other people, not doctors, that I have bipolar disorder and blah 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 blah, and that's my issue. So I go through a really fast level of mood swings through the group, which is a complex emotional stent from being overstimulated. And when I see my doctor that day, I dive right the fuck in. This is what was going on. This is what my feelings were. This is what my thought process is. Do I have bipolar disorder? Let's explore. During my process in here, I also had a nightmare that was very disturbing. And this is when the first thing that hit when I talked to my doctor about this, because I was very, very talkative to this doctor. I actually enjoyed talking to this doctor. This doctor was a very good doctor, and he was doing the very best he could. So he tells me, you have post-traumatic stress disorder. You're being traumatized right now. Like presently, currently, right now, you have PTSD. So that clicked. That made sense. So I like recalled, like, because I was an infant that had a bilateral skull fracture. My adoptive mother said I was very rejective of her as an infant. Didn't like her holding me. Well, that makes sense now. I had PTSD. Of course I rejected you. You were a woman, and the last woman that I was in the care of killed me. I died. I had to be revived. So, no, that makes sense. All that makes sense. All of this suddenly makes sense. All of these issues I've had my whole life suddenly made sense. I have post-traumatic stress disorder. Fantastic. So, which PTSD comes with what? Emotional dysregulation. So that didn't work for anybody with those diagnoses. I got diagnosed with major depressive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and psychosis. I was put on post-traumatic stress PTSD medications for nightmares. I was put on Prozac for my major depressive disorder, and I was put on Seroquel, a 200 milligram dose for psychosis and sleep, so that I could get rest and my mind and my body and all that could rest. Anyways, so nonetheless, This was just the start of a very fucked up nightmare. Now, since I ended up homeless, really funny shit. Since I ended up homeless, and all the shit on my personal level, like, I don't, like, really would annoy me when I would go in for my appointments for MHMR. I went in regularly for MHMR appointments, and she would turn on the little noise machine that was supposed to be an anxiety reducer, but then she would be like, it's so nobody can hear us. And I'm like, first of all, if anybody, I'm not saying this to her, I'm thinking this to myself. First of all, if anybody wants to listen in, they're going to listen in and they're going to find a way to do it one way or another. Second of all, that just annoys me that you just want to act like I'm just like on that level. Like, seriously, you're just annoying the fuck out of me. So I didn't take to that very well. I also didn't take to my insomnia being called mania, being constantly triggered, being called manic episodes when people would intentionally trigger me and people would act like that wasn't the case. All of this shit just fucked. It was a huge mess. It still is. It's like one gigantic mess. But since I've been homeless and I've seen another level of things that I already knew because you hear about it already from people struggling with mental health that are in the, what's the word that I'm looking for? Mid-economy range, about having struggles and how they still don't feel quite whole. Something feels wrong. Some people get real balanced out real well. Others don't. Well, here's what happens when you're homeless. It gets worse. So a lot of people that are homeless, they acknowledge in the area I'm in that a lot of people are in survival mode. They're building stuff to try to reduce this and allow an opportunity for some version of stability to get out of survival mode. But this is not instantaneous either. And this is also something that is different for each person. The shelter I was at, I moved into what is called transition. So you're expected to save 50% of your income, which is easy for some if you got certain things going for you and harder for others. I'm one of the ones it's harder for. I was able to save before, but this time I'm struggling a whole lot. But I've also been through a whole lot more, and they're intensifying their fucking goddamn shit on me. So I'm very pro medication. I swear by it. Take your meds. Take your goddamn meds. Take your goddamn meds. If your meds aren't working, explore. If you've explored and you found out that your meds aren't working, you need to figure out what you don't need to do it by yourself. Your doctor needs to help you. And they need to figure out what the fuck is going on. And environment plays a role in this. And that needs to be acknowledged. So, a lot of people that are homeless have post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot. A whole lot of them. And PTSD presents not exactly the same way, but has a pattern that shows up where things, you start putting it together. So a lot of people have PTSD and that are homeless. A lot. A whole lot. And that's why you have big emotional outbursts and a lot of black and white thinking, a lot of, I gotta be hard or I gotta be this way. And it's a fucking mess. So just needed to clarify that. And a lot of people get mostly pushed with diagnosis of bipolar disorder. Now, if you're on medication for bipolar disorder, if you are constantly being catched and released and switched back to the environment that you're in, there's no way of fixing that. If you do get the opportunity, like I did, to have a chance to transition out, sometimes some people take longer, and it's not for lack of effort to get where you would like them to be. It's not an instantaneous thing. That would be wonderful, but it doesn't work that way. So these are things that are currently going on. So MHMR is full shit. They're not properly diagnosing. They're not properly looking. They're not asking the right questions. They're asking questions they want to ask. That works for their ideas, not about you. They're fulfilling their own fantasies about themselves, not about you. It's about them and getting shit their way rather than you as an individual. Because that requires them to do their jobs. And as long as they are the controlling power over, I got the education here, so I know what the fuck I'm talking about. I went to college for this shit. Bitch, I got my education from experience, YouTube, other doctors that are feeling like it's important to share this information because guess what? We can't all afford great health care, especially mental health care. And you have to learn to think about yourself as an individual and what is going on individually in your life. All of these things play a factor in your role of your mental health. What's going on with you currently, and they skip over this. They skip over this. They don't give a fuck. So it's pretty fucked up. Also, it is very important. I worked in the medical field. And some assholes decided to post after I mentioned this very publicly with somebody that there is no reason to sign an NDA if you are working for mental health unless you're up to shady shit, because HIPAA is suable if violated with jail time. And give or take on what it is, prison. The only reason you would sign an NDA is if you were doing shady shit. Which also means that they can sell your information. And then be protected by an NDA to not do it, to not speak on it. So, yeah. And then if you grow a conscience and say, I'm going to speak up and whistleblow, then you're held to the NDA to prevent whistleblowing. Thus, keeping the mental health facilities and mental health areas in the state of Texas in a transient area where dominated by narcissists, and people in Texas do not get proper mental health care. Congratulations. That's what's been going on. That's what MHMR signed up for. They're not there for you. They're there for themselves. They're there for whatever they can profiteer off of. Not you. Not help you. Not care about you. And yes, they will sell your information. And yes, they will fuck you up the ass. And yes, they will only do what works best for them. No, they don't care. They don't care. They care about a paycheck. That's it. And feeling good about themselves and superior. I'm not even kidding. First-hand experience. So, also, what you need to understand when it comes to the homeless, a lot of them deal with trafficking themselves. Exploitation is a form of trafficking. But that's just the way of life out here. So you need to understand that and what they're dropping the ball on and within the mental health system themselves. So that's our problem here in Texas. It's our doctors. So y'all can all tip your hats off to them and say thank you for fucking us up the ass. And that's how they play their Dr. Fox used this word. It's for it's a form of manipulation. It keeps you from getting proper help. Dr. Ramani talked about this, that this is a problem in the mental health field, that doctors do this. Makes it very hard to get out of situations. So, the state of Texas is the worst state to get mental health care. We are dead last. And it's our doctors we have to thank for that. So congratulations. And using the term burnout in these fields, I will no longer accept. Lazy, arrogant, selfish, egotistical, those I will acknowledge because those are the people I've met. Only a few, very, 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 very tiny few doctors have I run into that did not pull those egotistical fucking cards that actually met you where you were at. And usually I get fucked afterwards so that the diagnosis gets changed. So, but that's because I'm being human trafficked. So, super fun.